Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World this one. My name is Diksha Bisla and this is World DNA. Let's start with the headlines. US Homeland Security arrests Afghan national Mohammad Dawood Al-Khoze in Texas for threatening to bomb a building in Fort Worth. Held a day before another Afghan national shot two National Guard members in Washington. Donald Trump escalated his threats against Venezuela, warning that the country's airspace should be considered closed. Caracas condemns the US president's statement as a colonialist threat. Russian drone strike on the outskirts of Kiev kills one person and injures 11, including a child. Attack sparks fire and forces evacuation of high-rise buildings. At least 7 people are killed and 5 others are seriously injured as gunmen open fire in a bar in central Mexico's Tula. 4 victims die at the scene and 3 more succumb to their injuries in hospital. An Israeli drone strike in Gaza kills 2 Palestinian boys while they search for firewood, says the family. Israel's military claims that the strike targeted 2 suspects, posing an immediate threat. Pope Leo XIV wraps up a 4-day Turkey visit today after meeting President Erdogan, celebrating the Nicaea Council's 1700th anniversary and holding a large Istanbul Mass. He will head to Lebanon with a message of peace next. Indigo completes software upgrades on all 200 Airbus A320 aircraft, while Air India Express finishes safety checks on most of its fleet. Updates come after software issue in Airbus A320 prompted safety concerns. Cyclone Ditwa approaches coasts of Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Andhra Pradesh, prompting a red alert as heavy rains battered the region. Expected to make landfall between North Tamil Nadu and South Andhra Pradesh today. British playwright Tom Stoppard, who won an Oscar for the screenplay of the 1998 film Shakespeare in Love, has died at the age of 88. King Charles and rock royalty Mick Jagger led the tribute on social media. US President Donald Trump has escalated his threats against Venezuela, warning that the country's airspace should be considered closed. Meanwhile, Caracas slammed Trump's warning as a colonialist threat and has warned that the airspace disruptions would also mean a halt to repatriation flights of Venezuelan migrants from the United States. Now, Trump's warning comes amid a significant US military buildup in the Caribbean. On Saturday, US Navy landing craft patrolled the coast of southern Puerto Rico. Washington says its operations are aimed at curbing drug trafficking. Venezuelan airline traffic continued cautiously through the skies above Marquetia International Airport. Flight tracking service showed only limited aircraft crossing Venezuelan airspace. And days earlier, the US Federal Aviation Administration advised commercial pilots to exercise increased caution in the region. That advisory prompted 6 major airlines to suspend service. Now, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro framed the stepped-up US deployments as an attempt at regime change. He has responded with public displays of force, including military exercises and mass rallies. Venezuelans condemned Trump's warning and called it unfair. They said that the airspace disruptions will affect their travel plans, especially during Christmas.
A lot of my money was also lost. Important documents were also missing. Many of my belongings were missing. My motorcycle was also damaged. My car was also submerged.
Nosotros los venezolanos no tenemos la culpa de...
And Russia's latest drone strike on the outskirts of Kiev has killed at least one person and wounded 11 others. The regional governor confirmed the casualties following overnight attacks. And this comes after a broader wave of Russian drone and missile strikes late Friday that left at least 3 people dead and knocked out power to hundreds of thousands across Ukraine. The Energy Ministry says more than 600,000 people remain without electricity nationwide, including 500,000 in the capital. Moscow claims it targeted infrastructure supporting Ukraine's military industry. Kiev says that civilian sites were deliberately struck. Ukraine, meanwhile, has carried out new attacks at sea. Security service officials say domestically produced Sea Baby naval drones struck 2 Russian oil tankers in the Black Sea. The vessels, identified as the Kairos and Virat, are described as part of Russia's shadow fleet, which are used to evade sanctions. A video released by the Ukrainian side claims to show both tankers being hit off Turkey's Black Sea coast. Ukrainian intelligence says the operation is part of ongoing efforts to restrict Russia's ability to finance the war. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has ordered a revision of the country's core defense documents. He met with Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal and Intelligence Chief Kylos Budanov as Russia steps up its offensive in Zaporizhia and Donetsk. Zelensky says that updated defense planning is needed and has instructed the government to fully fund the purchase of drones, which are now central to Ukraine's strategy in countering Russia's large forces. In a separate move, Rustem Umerov, Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, has been appointed as the head of Kiev's delegation for negotiations on resolving the conflict. The decree by President Zelensky takes immediate effect and follows the resignation of former Chief of Staff Andriy Yermak after anti-corruption raids at his residence. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff are scheduled to meet Ukrainian negotiators in Florida today, and this as Washington prepares to present its revised plan to end the war. In Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron will meet Ukrainian President in Paris for talks focused on what officials call the conditions for a just and lasting peace. In South Africa, police have arrested 4 men who were allegedly headed to Russia to join its armed forces. Well, the arrest followed an investigation involving the daughter of former President Jacob Zuma over claims that she helped recruit fighters for Russian mercenary groups. All right, moving on, there is a searing UN verdict on Israel's conduct in detention centers. A 2-year review spanning the period since the Gaza war began, UN says that Israel has effectively built a system that relies on widespread organized torture of Palestinians and that it operates with near total impunity. All of this as Gaza's death toll crosses 70,000. The UN Committee on Torture details a brutal pattern here. Relentless beatings, attack by dogs, electric shocks, water torture, sexual violence and stress positions used for hours and days. Detainees, it says, were routinely humiliated, deprived of medical care, restrained so extensively that some lost limbs. The report warns of another growing crisis, the mass detention of Palestinian children. Minors, some as young as 12 and even younger, are being held without charge. They have been cut off from their families, denied education, and in some cases kept in solitary confinement. The UN says this violates basic international standards, and when the committee looks at the occupation as a whole, the daily controls, the raids, the detentions, it suggests the cumulative effect may itself amount to torture. The report also flags a stark number. At least 75 Palestinians have died in custody since the war began, and none of their deaths, the UN says, have led to accountability. Israel insists its prisons meet legal and humanitarian standards, but the UN notes that despite a long list of allegations, Israel has barely brought any criminal cases against its security forces. There has been only one conviction in 2 years and a sentence far lighter than the offense. And just as this report lands, a new video from Jenin adds to the scrutiny. 2 Palestinians, detained, unarmed and crawling out with their hands up, are seen shot at point-blank range by border police. 3 officers were questioned and released. Their account contradicted the footage. Ukraine has claimed responsibility for the attacks on 2 oil tankers in the Black Sea. A Ukrainian security source spoke to the news agency AFP and confirmed that Ukraine carried out the attacks. Reports say that the tankers were covertly transporting sanctioned Russian oil. The Ukraine Security Service released footage showing the attack via sea drones. Earlier, 2 oil tankers, both part of what analysts call Russia's shadow fleet, were rocked by explosions near Turkey's Bosphorus Strait. The shipping agency Tribeca first responded to the incident. It said that the Gambian flag tanker Cairo suffered an explosion and fire in its engine room about 83 kilometers north of the Bosphorus. The ship was travelling in ballast when it issued a distress call. Turkey's Maritime Affairs Directorate later said that the Kairos reported an internal impact before the fire broke out, and this as it was heading towards Russia's Novorossiysk port. Images posted by Turkish authorities showed dark smoke rising from the bow. 2 fast rescue boats, a tug and an emergency response vessel were immediately dispatched. According to Turkey's Transport Ministry, all 25 crew members have been safely evacuated. No sea pollution has been detected so far either. A second Gambian flag tanker named the Virat also reportedly being struck roughly 35 nautical miles further east. Heavy smoke was detected in the engine room, but all 20 crew members were reported to be in good condition. Both tankers are under Western sanctions for transporting Russian oil, despite embargoes imposed after Moscow's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Now, according to shipping officials, shipping traffic through the Bosphorus busy strait continued uninterrupted despite the explosions. And Russian President Vladimir Putin is all set to visit India on December 4th. The visit underlines the importance of the strong Russia-India ties, which dates back to India's pre-independence days. Well, it's a partnership that's forged through decades of mutual trust. Our next report gets you all the details. Take a look.
The India-Russia bond is no ordinary partnership. It's a relationship that predates India's independence, rooted in history, tested by war, and strengthened by trust. The 2 countries established diplomatic relations in April 1947. A newly independent India was eager to start afresh. Over 2 centuries of colonial exploitation had left the Indian economy in tatters. A deep distrust of imperial powers meant that India looked to the then Soviet Union during its quest for self-sufficiency. The Soviets reciprocated with support for India's heavy industries. Moscow helped New Delhi set up steel plants in Bhilai and Bokaro. Investments in mining and energy followed. On both occasions, the Soviets stepped in after India's negotiations with the West fell through. The ties took a dramatic turn after the Indo-China War in 1962. New Delhi looked to the West for advanced weaponry, but both the US and the UK offered a cold shoulder. Once again, the Soviet Union stepped in, laying the foundations for Indo-Soviet military cooperation. 3 years later, the West again refused to come to India's aid when it fought a war with Pakistan. Instead, it put an arms embargo on India. This reinforced New Delhi's belief that it could not depend on Western arms supplies. The Soviet Union came to India's rescue. It gave New Delhi a license to manufacture the MiG-21 fighter jet, a technology transfer that it had even denied to China. Sukhoi and MiG-23 jets followed soon after. The Soviet Union also played a mediating role. It hosted the Tashkent summit in 1966, where a peace agreement was signed between India and Pakistan. Moscow also looked after India on the global stage. Between 1957 and 1971, it used its veto half a dozen times in the United Nations Security Council to support India on the issue of Kashmir. But the watershed moment in the relationship came in 1971. Months before war raged in what was soon to become Bangladesh, India and the Soviet Union signed the Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation. It was soon put to the test when the US deployed its 7th Fleet to the Bay of Bengal. The idea was to intimidate India and tilt the war in Pakistan's favor. But Washington was outfoxed by Moscow. The Soviet Union deployed its nuclear-armed naval fleet, forcing the US to back down. With external threats neutralized, India went for the kill and achieved a decisive victory. The war cemented the Soviet Union's defense ties with India, and since then, both sides haven't looked back. The relationship continued to prosper even after the fall of the Soviet Union. At the turn of the millennium, New Delhi and Moscow elevated their ties to a strategic partnership. 10 years later, this was elevated to a special and privileged strategic partnership. Today, India-Russia ties span across defense, science, technology, culture, and people-to-people connections. Bilateral trade hit a record $65.7 billion in 2023-24. The two sides have set a target of $100 billion by 2030. Russia is also India's top arms supplier, accounting for over a third of India's total arms imports. Russian weaponry was put to the test during India's Operation Sindoor. Russia's S-400 air defense systems repelled attacks from Pakistan, handing India an undeniable edge. In a world where alliances shift like sand, India and Russia stand as constants. Partners forged not by convenience, but by decades of trust and shared triumphs. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
A major software glitch in Airbus A320 family aircraft sparked a global scramble this week, with airlines around the world ordered to carry out an urgent system update to prevent a potential flight control malfunction. The European Union Safety Agency on Friday issued an emergency airworthiness directive after a recent incident triggered by an extreme solar flare, which caused a temporary loss of flight control inputs on a JetBlue-operated A320 aircraft. Engineers identified a rare interaction in the pitch control room, prompting a worldwide mandate to update over 6,000 aircraft. And this is the biggest recall that Airbus has faced in its 55-year history. And it comes soon after the A320 surpassed the Boeing 737 as the most produced aircraft. The fix, described as a mandatory software upgrade, required grounding aircraft in sequenced windows, leading to schedule disruptions across Europe, the US, and Asia. Global carriers moved fast, with most major A320 operators completing a large part of the upgrade within 48 hours. The disruption repelled globally, causing delays and even cancellation of flights. Airbus says the new software prevents any recurrence of the pitch control freeze under extreme solar or electromagnetic conditions. Reports suggest that around two-thirds of the affected aircraft will face only short groundings as airlines roll back to an earlier software version. However, hundreds of older jets may also need hardware replacements, potentially leading to much longer delays. The impact was significant in India, one of the largest A320 markets in the world. The DGCA confirmed that 338 jets of the A320 family aircraft across Indian fleets were affected, including those operated by Indigo, Air India and Air India Express. By Saturday, more than 90% of these aircraft had been successfully upgraded, with operators working through the night to minimize the disruption. Indigo, which is India's largest airline, announced on late Saturday that it had completed the upgrade on all 200 of its aircraft. The DGCA says India's aviation safety framework responded rather quickly, ensuring timely patching and daily performance monitoring and coordination with Airbus technical teams. The software update, now nearly completed worldwide, is expected to fully stabilize operations across global A320 fleets. The newly released Blue Moon is grabbing attention for multiple reasons, including the fact that it marks actor Ethan Hawke and director Richard Linklater's 11th film together. Well, Ethan Hawke and Richard Linklater's professional collaboration kick-started in 1995 when they paired for romantic drama Before Sunrise, and since then the duo has worked in several movies together, including Fast Food Nation and Boyhood, among others. The duo likened their new movie to a stage play with one long scene. The film follows lyricist Lawrence Hart, one half of the legendary US songwriting duo Rodgers and Hart. On the opening night of the musical Oklahoma, the Broadway hit was the first time that Hart's partner, Richard Rodgers, collaborated with another lyricist. Featuring Andrew Scott in the lead role, the movie takes place in the course of one night. The film primarily sees Hart reflect on his life, love and career at a post-premiere party for the Broadway show. Interestingly enough, the entire movie was shot in 15 days, and according to Linklater, it is largely true to the character, with only Hart's relationship with Elizabeth Violin being more fictional. For those unaware, this aspect of the movie is inspired by the real letters that Hart sent to Violin. Hart, who died on November 22, 1943, aged 48, delivered some memorable songs with Rodgers. The duo's hit songs include Blue Moon, My Funny Valentine, Manhattan and On Your Toes, among others. The film released in UK cinemas this Friday. And with that, it's time for a very short break. But don't go anywhere. More news and updates will follow on the other side. Stay tuned. You're watching Beyond World is One.
One planet, one mission, one platform. One step towards sustainability, one destination. Join us on Mission Sustainability 2025 Season 3. No action, not an option. December 2nd, 2025, New Delhi. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Hi, I am Amit Kambaria, Managing Director of Opera Energy. India is moving aggressively towards its vision of 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. And Opera Energy is proud to support this national mission, as a company motto is leading the renewable energy revolutions. With our innovative wind, solar and battery energy solutions that help industries transition to green, clean and reliable power solutions. Sustainability is a topic that is very close to my heart. Join me on Mission Sustainability on December 2nd, only on WION World is One. Remember, no action is not an option.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Dharmendra, the he-man of Indian cinema, died at 89. This week, we look at the legacy he leaves behind. No rare facts about the legendary actor.
ये वीरू है.
And pay a tribute to all the Sholay stars who are no longer with us. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
One planet, one mission, one platform. One step towards sustainability, one destination. Join us on Mission Sustainability 2025 Season 3. No action, not an option. December 2nd, 2025, New Delhi. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion.